Hi, in this video we're going to be showing you how to assemble this dresser. But before we get started, here's a few things to keep in mind. Make sure you have a Phillips head screwdriver and a hammer. Another person can be helpful. Be sure to set aside enough time for assembly, and just make sure all the pieces are facing the right way as you're putting it together, and you'll do great. We're going to be focusing on the trickier parts and going quickly through the easier steps. So make sure you pause the video and complete all the steps as we go. With that said, let's get into it. In step 1, we'll be putting dowels into pieces 6 and 17. Okay, we can set those aside, and then we'll move on to step 2, and we'll put dowels into pieces 2, 3, 5, 8, 11, 12, 15, and 20. Now we can move on to step 3, and we'll put dowels into pieces 8 and 7. Okay, we're good to move on. In step 4, we'll be putting cam bolts into pieces 1 and 14. Okay, now we're good to move on. In step 5, we'll be attaching piece 6 to pieces 2 and 3, and piece 17 to piece 5. Okay, we're good to move on. In step 6 and 7, we'll be attaching pieces 2 and 5 to piece 1. When you line these up, you want to make sure that the cam lock holes are touching piece 1 and that these grooves are lined up along the bottom. You also want to be sure on both pieces that you have the cam lock holes facing towards the open side of the piece. We'll put our cam locks in here. Next, we'll stand up piece 5, once again with the cam lock holes facing towards the open side. And you want to have this notched edge on the same side as this notch here. Okay, we're good to move on. In steps 8 through 10, we'll be attaching pieces 20 and 3. So first, we'll want to slide piece 20 so that it goes under piece 5. And then we'll slide those dowels into piece 2. All right, next we'll stand up piece 3. I want to make sure that the cam lock holes are on this side and that this notch is once again lining up along the bottom. And put in the dowels on piece 20. And then we can put in our 3 cam locks. Okay, and we're good to move on. In steps 11 and 12, we'll be attaching the bottom foot. So first you want to take the leg and put in this piece. Make sure that's nice and flush. Then we can screw in our foot. Next we'll stand up piece 4. And you want to make sure that the leg attaches to the side that doesn't have this notch on it. So we'll put our bolt through this side. Screw that in. Okay, and we're good to move on. In step 13, we'll be attaching the bottom of our piece. So we'll pick this up and line it up. Just make sure that the notch is facing the back of the piece. And we'll line this up with our dowels. And then we can put in our screws. All right, and we're good to move on. In steps 14 and 15, we'll be putting together the legs. So we'll start with pieces 7 and 9. And when you're putting these together, you want to pay attention to the orientation. So I'll put these together. Once they're all together, you want to make sure that the holes on pieces 7 are facing forward just like the holes on piece 9, and that the unfinished edges are all lined up. And then we'll put in our screws. And then we'll do the same thing again for the next set of legs. Okay, now we can attach pieces 8. So we'll set these on either side. And then we put these together, and with the legs facing down, you want to be sure that these dowels are facing up. Once again, so that all the unfinished edges are lined up. And also be sure that these holes are facing inwards. And we can put in our screws. And then we can do the same thing for all of our other corners. Okay, and we're good to move on. In step 16, we'll be attaching the legs to the bottom of our piece. So we'll line this up with the dowels facing down. And line that up with the holes on the bottom of our piece. And then we can put in our screws. Okay, we're good to move on. In step 17, we'll be putting dowels into each of our sliders. And when you do this, just make sure that you put it in the front hole and not the back one. Okay, we're good to move on. In step 18, we'll be attaching the back panels. Just make sure that you put the first one so that this sticker is in your top corner. And then we'll line this up inside of the grooves. All right, and then we can put in our nails. Okay, we're good to move on. In steps 19 through 22, we'll be putting together our drawers. We've already done the first 5, but we'll show you how to do the last one. So we'll start by putting 4 dowels into the front of our drawer, and then we'll fit on 2 of piece 13. So it should look like this, and then we can flip that over and put in our screws. All right, next we'll attach pieces 11 and 12. You want to put these on so that the cam lock holes are facing the front of the piece, and so that this groove lines up along the front. And then we can put in our cam locks. Next, we'll slide in our back panel. And then we'll fit this back piece on, making sure that the groove goes over that panel. And then we can put in our screws. Okay, now that our drawer is all put together, we can move on to step 23 and insert it into our dresser. So we'll just line our drawer up with our sliders. And then once that's partway in, we'll put 2 dowels on the inside. And that just keeps our drawer from coming back out. Push that in all the way, and then we're all done. We hope this video was helpful for you in assembling your new dresser. For more guides, tips, and tricks, head on over to walkeredison.com.